a lot of you are continuing to do things that you don't want to be doing anymore, but you haven't spent any time radically rethinking how you could do it differently. You're just going with the flow, the way other people do it.
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chris Harder Show, where today I am grateful to have had such a great trip in Italy and Paris. You know, it's not every day that you get to go see some of your best friends in the world, halfway across the world. And that would be Rob and Kim, who, used to live in Manhattan Beach, California, and now they live in Florence, Italy. And it's not every day that you get to have dinner with a fashion icon family like the Ferragamos. I mean, to sit there for 3 or 4 hours at dinner with them, and it's our second time at dinner with them, and to have such a great conversation, and for them to say, hey, well, next time you're back, we have to do something really fun, to come to our villa, let's plan a weekend out of it. Like, you just don't get those opportunities too often in life. But the best part that I was so grateful for is we got to bring my brother and his girlfriend Jackie, and it was their first time in Europe. And those of you that have kids, I don't have kids, but I've got to imagine that when you see people you love going on a cool experience, maybe it's going to Disney, maybe it's, first time on visiting a certain vacation or a state or something like that, or in this case, the first time seeing Nick and Jackie in Europe and seeing how old the buildings are and just how beautiful everything is, especially in Italy, especially in Florence, Italy, and of course in Paris. That was a really cool experience to be able to see it through first-timers' eyes. So anyhow, that's what I'm grateful for. And if you're like, what in the world is this dude talking about? If you're new to the show, anytime that I do a solo episode, I share what I'm grateful for, because I'm a huge believer that if you don't build into your daily practice a few moments of stopping and taking inventory of what you're really grateful for, well, then it's like not having it at all. Think about how many things in your life are actually going in your favor. Everyday blessings that you never stop to acknowledge. If you don't acknowledge it, it's like it's not even there at all. So that's why I do it. It's just my little effort to try and remind you guys to take a time out, and stop and take inventory of what you're grateful for. So let's stick with that trip for today's episode, because I came back from that trip with some unexpected gifts. I went there just to see friends and have a good time and meet some new friends. And it was everything that I expected it to be and then some. But what I didn't go there for was to have any kind of personal advancements or personal breakthroughs. I thought we're putting this trip on for other people. But I shouldn't be surprised, because any time that you put yourself in what I call the magic trio, and that is whenever you put yourself into new situations, that's number one, with new high-performing people, that's number two, and make room for new perspective, that's number three. Whenever you put yourself into that magic trio, of course you're going to walk away with breakthroughs. Of course you're going to walk away with new ideas. And of course you're going to walk away with something better than when you got in there. And that's exactly what happened to me. For context, let me kind of share the setting. One of my best friends in the world is Rob Murgatroyd. And Rob is a tremendous coach. He coaches people who are in transition specifically. So if you're in transition from one type of career to a radical different type of career, or if you're leaving your job behind and starting your own business, or if you're doing anything that is considered a major life transition, Rob's one of the best coaches in the world for it. And so sometimes he can't turn off the inner coach in him. On one of the days on this trip, we spent the entire day on bicycles in Tuscany, biking through the Tuscan countryside, stopping at vineyards, stopping at castles, and stopping where they drop off all of the olives to make fresh olive oil. I mean, everything that you've ever pictured Tuscany as, that's what that day was, on bikes. And it was magical. And towards the end of the day, we stopped at a vineyard and they served us lunch. And it's just like you would picture, I'm not kidding, out of a movie, a big long table. There must have been, 15 of us at that table, 12 or 15 of us at that table. And you've got olive trees all around you. You've got vines and vines and vines with grapes for wine as far as the eye can see. And it's one of those warm Tuscan afternoons, but not too warm. Think like 67 degrees. And the sun, because we'd been biking all day, certainly wasn't setting yet, but it was just kind of that perfect angle. That 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon kind of angle. I'm telling you, the setting was magical. Now, I sat down at one end of the table with Rob to my left and Nick, my brother, to my right. And after we got a couple of glasses of wine going, Rob had asked me, and I forgot what led up to it, but he asked me, he said, "Hey, why aren't you coaching people one-on-one anymore?" Because he loves doing it. And I simply said, because I don't want to be on Zoom anymore. And so he started to ask me questions, and I said, I'll tell you what, save this conversation for the train ride home. Because like any good Italian, you don't take cars, you take trains everywhere. And we had a train ride through the Tuscan countryside back to Florence that evening that I knew would be about an hour and a half. I knew we'd get some good uninterrupted chance to talk. So we got on the train, and as the sun is starting to set, Rob sitting across from me, he brought it up again. He said, "All right, why aren't you coaching one-on-one anymore? What am I missing?" And I said, it's simple. I don't want any more Zoom in my life. And he kind of paused. He said, "What do you mean you don't want any more Zoom? Like, that's it? You gave up one-on-one coaching and all the impact and all of the joy and all the fun that I've watched you have with these people. You gave that up because you don't want to be on Zoom anymore?" I said, "I don't want any more Zoom in my life. I'm too old and too rich to do anything I don't want to do anymore." And we had a chuckle at that line. But it's true. I quit one-on-one coaching because I didn't want to be on Zoom anymore. And he looked at me and he said, "If that's all it is, why not just make them come to you?" And that simple statement, that simple outside perspective, I'm embarrassed to say I have never thought of before. I never thought of, what if I still did something that I really love doing, but just made everybody come to me? Or hell, maybe I'll jump on a plane to go to them once in a while. See, the whole point of this story is sometimes things are right in front of our nose, but we don't stop to think about it in a radical new way. Sometimes the solution to doing something you want to do, or to stopping doing something you don't want to do, is so simple, but it takes somebody else to say it to you. And in this case, the solution was right in front of my eyes the whole time. Don't want to do Zoom? No problem. Set it up so people are coming to you. And listen, here's why I didn't think of it at first, right? Your first thought is, well, what do you mean? Are people going to come every 2 weeks? Are they going to jump on an airplane every month? Like, that's not realistic. But then he and I kind of flushed out. I said, okay, pretend you're right. What would that look like? He said, well, how often do you think you really need to do a deep dive with people? Like high-performing people, not people you have to babysit. And I said, probably like every 45 to 60 days. I think every 60 days is good. You spend a few hours like really picking everything apart and doing a quick remodel every 60 days. It's okay. What do you think they need in between those 60 days? I said, I just texting, phone calls, no Zooms. But it's as simple as, why do we make meetings just to have meetings' sake? Like the way I used to do it, it'd be like, okay, every 2 weeks we have to have a meeting. And all right, give me a status update. Where is everything? That's babysitting. That's not coaching. That's babysitting. So he said, great. Treat them like the high-performing adults that they are. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't just quit doing something that you love doing because you don't want to be on Zoom anymore. He said, have them come see you every 60 days. And then Tell them, text me when you need me. I'll jump on the phone when you need me. Here's my office hours. I'll always make sure availability is a priority, but we're not going to set meetings just for meeting's sake. And I will tell you, this simple solution made me so damn excited to be able to freaking do something that I love doing that I thought I wouldn't do anymore because I didn't want to sit on Zoom anymore. So what does this have to do with you? A lot of you are continuing to do things that you don't want to be doing anymore, but you haven't spent any time radically rethinking how you could do it differently. You're just going with the flow, the way other people do it. Here's a good example. A podcaster was complaining to me recently. They've been podcasting a long time, and they're like, I'm just tired of the interview prep and then doing the interview and then more interview prep and doing another interview and doing more interview prep and doing another interview and trying to keep up with the, 1 or 2 hours a week worth of episodes that they have to keep churning out. But the podcast provides so much business for them and so much revenue for them that they didn't want to end it. So they just kind of thought that they would have to trudge through the same pattern that they're tired of forever. And I said to him, well, instead of stopping your interviews at an hour and instead of, prepping and then interviewing and prepping and interviewing and prepping, I go, why don't you just do like a mega prep for a long form podcast, like Joe Rogan style, 2.5, 3 hours, and cut it up into a part 1, part 2, part 3. And now you've got 3 weeks from one interview and one prep session. And while that's not earth shattering, it was earth shattering for them. It's a very simple solution, but they said, my God, I never thought about that. Matter of fact, they went on to say, I feel like I'm always kind of rushing it at the end of the podcast. Like we didn't get everything in. We could just keep talking forever. I said, exactly. Go long form, but don't make it 1 3-hour episode. Make it part 1, part 2, part 3, 3 45-minute episodes. Just give them the good stuff. It's an example of how you don't have to keep doing things the way you've always done them just because you haven't bothered to rethink it. So now this person, they'll do 1/3 of the prep that they have been, and they'll do 1/3 of the interviews that they have been, but they'll get the same quantity of content out of that effort. And it's not always people doing things that they wish they could stop doing, but not rethinking it. In my case, or for example, like in my case, a lot of you wish you could be doing something, but you just kind of write it off as, oh, I couldn't do that, because you can't quite see some of the easy answers in front of you as to how you could do it. I mean, here's another example. Recently, somebody wanted to start a product company, and they didn't want to start like this multi-million crazy, go all in product company. They wanted to have their own physical product. They didn't know where or how to start. I said, there's formulators that do everything for you, like literally a one-stop shop. They'll formulate back and forth with you. They do your packaging back and forth with you. They do your warehousing and shipping. Like, they handle all of it. And it's not that expensive. You either pay them up front or you give them a little cut of the action. So you don't have to do this alone. And I introduced them to the formulator. And that little shift in perspective took them from saying, gosh, I wish I had a product company, but I don't know how to do blank, to saying, wait, there's somebody that does it all for me. I just have to do the marketing and I just have to create the product that I got in mind, and they'll do all the work. They'll do all the formulation. They'll do all those things. Like, that's as easy as just meeting them. Hell yes, that's as easy as meeting them. And so I share this episode with you to say, if there's something that you want to do in 2025, but you don't see how you can do it, start getting some outside counsel. Start getting some outside perspective. Start putting yourself into different rooms. And if there's something you want to stop doing, but you feel obligated to keep going, you just don't see how you could stop doing it in the way that you're doing it, the answer is the same. Go get some new perspective. Go get some new advice. Go get an outside set of eyes that has a totally different life experience than you've had thus far. 2025 doesn't have to look anything like 2024. It doesn't have to look anything like what your last 5 years have looked like. You can do radically different things and get the same or better results by rethinking thinking everything and getting that outside perspective. And if you want to get that outside perspective with my help, I am more than happy, now that I'm back, baby, I'm more than happy to sit down with you in person only, none of this Zoom BS, in person every 45 to 60 days. You come to me, we'll text in between those times, we'll do phone calls in between those times, whatever it takes to move the needle for you. And here's one more thing too. I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for less than half. Yeah, you heard that right. Less than half of what I used to charge, because I also didn't want the pressure. I used to charge an obscene amount, like an awesome amount of money for my one-on-one coaching. Way over 6 figures. But I don't want that pressure anymore. I just want to do this because I enjoy it. I want it to be accessible for the right people. So, if you want to coach with me, I'm only going to take a couple people. I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep it fun. But if this sounds really fun, you and me sitting down in person every 60 days, moving the needle on your business, do me a favor. Hit pause and go to chrisharder.me/coaching. Again, that's chrisharder.me, chrisharder.me/coaching. There's an application there. Fill out the app real quick. I'll look at it, and if I think you're a good fit, you and I'll jump on the phone, see if it's a great fit for each other. If we like the chemistry, then we'll lock arms. We'll lock arms for 6 months. We'll lock arms for a year. We'll lock arms for 90 days. Whatever it needs to look like for you. But we're doing it in person. All right, guys. Hopefully this helps you unlock wherever you feel stuck. Hopefully this gives you some encouragement, some hope, some perspective like it did me. Because damn, I got off that train and I was so freaking excited. And I want you to feel that same way too. Let's dust off the old saying from this podcast. When you do, that's when good people like you make good money and can do great things. Thanks for listening. You know I love and appreciate you.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.